I just scared a bird from my window. I see this bird pop out, like, what? Like, I think I woke him up. So I was just in Scampia, which is in Naples, for the past 3 days? Yeah, I'm gonna say 3 days. We met some Italian students that are about our age, maybe a year or two younger, very close to our age. And basically, the reason they go to the school that they go to is because they dropped out before they got to Italian high school. We went to this refugee camp. I suppose I should call it a refugee camp. They called it the Roma camp. It was strange. I had never been someplace like that before. They lived out of these motor homes, or out of just homes that they had built out of, you know, scrap wood. And we played with these kids for like 2 hours. And we didn't speak much Italian. They would ask us, you know, like, come ti chiami, which means, what's your name? And we'd say our name, and then we'd ask their name, and that would basically be the extent of what we could say to them. We'd ask, you know, like, come stai, how are you? And, you know, they'd say bene, and then they'd say something complicated, and we'd be like, I don't know, dude, sorry. There was this group of kids that was counting to 10 in German to, like, you know, kind of intimidate some of the kids from my group, and they're all looking at them like, and then I walk up and I start counting in German too, and they're like, really? And so they start talking to me in German. They're like, you know, du sprichst Deutsch. I'm like, yeah. And they start asking me like how old I am, and like when I told them how old I was, I think that was the extent of their knowledge. I think they were like, yeah, that's about as much as we can do. My friend, I'll call her Vicky, I asked her parents' name, which we obviously didn't understand. We had to get someone to translate for us. They asked for her parents' names, and she told them. And the little girl didn't like the answer because Vicky's mother shared the same name as Vicky, and the little girl was like, that's not right. So she spat at Vicky's feet and called her a whore. And then we played with these like kids around the same age as the Roma kids, but like they weren't from the camp. And this little girl dropped so many F-bombs. My friend, like, what happened? Someone stole her hat and she asked for the hat back. And then they had to give the hat back. And they walked away and they said, fucking bitch. And this girl, she's very intimidating, my friend. She's like, what did you say? The kid was like, sorry. I wonder what the kids think it means. I wonder if they know the weight of their words, their English words. Because every time this little girl would, like, we were playing volleyball, every time the little girl would hit the volleyball, she'd yell out, what the fuck? I'm like, girl, you're 7 in Italy. What are you doing? And she did know some English. She knew how to say, like, are you ready? Let's go. You know? Which is more than a lot of the kids knew how to say. But, like, it was so funny.
Yeah, get in there, bro. Start running.
I'm getting out.
These kids are nuts.
While I was at the Roma camp, there was this little girl that really wanted me to spin her in a circle. You know when you swing a child around in your arms and you're holding onto their hands tight, and you're like, you know, making them float because you're spinning fast enough that they don't touch the ground. She made me do that about 60 times. And then I tried to explain to her that I got dizzy, that I was dizzy from spinning so much, and she was like, I don't care, like, do it again, but obviously in Italian. And I was like, okay, fine. So yeah, and then at the end of the trip, we got in this big circle to sing like a farewell song, and she was on the other side of the circle from me. And then at the end of the farewell song, like, obviously the guy explained, okay, give your friends hugs goodbye. And she darted towards me, and I gave her a big hug, and she kissed me on the cheek. I was like, oh, You're amazing. I didn't catch her name. She didn't tell me her name. She didn't ask for my name. We just had a mutual agreement that we had a friendship built upon spinning. Today we went to Pompeii. We saw Mount Vesuvius, and you know, not very up close, but you know, you could see the outlines of, you know, its different dips and hills, and it was just beautiful. It was so cool to look at. Every time I looked at it, I was just like, that's so cool. I don't know if you knew this, but the ancients were nasty. There were phallic sculptures everywhere. You look up, phallic sculpture. You look down, carved into the ground, phallic sculpture. You'd think it would be graffiti from, like, you know, modern people. No, they were just weird. And then we went into like an ancient brothel, and there are these paintings on the walls of like ancient porn. I'm just like,
What kind of fuckery is this?
like what? And it's crazy how much of that like art has been preserved because this city was like frozen in time under that ash. I gotta tell you about this van that we went in. It's the kind of van that your parents told you not to get into. It was driven by a stranger. It had no seats or seat belts. It was just benches pressed against, like, you know, the inner walls of the van. The kid sitting next to me kept saying, like, he could look into the future, like in That's So Raven, and you could look into his eye, and, you know, you'd zoom into the future, and you would just see us laying dead, like. That was my least favorite episode, when Raven's whole family died. I had a dessert that had cocoa powder dusted along the top of it, and I got into a line and I was like, who dares me to snort this? And my friend was immediately like, do it. And I was like, okay, I was joking. And he's like, give it to me. I'm like, okay. So I gave it to him. Like, I didn't think he was gonna do it. And then he goes, I think I'm dying.